A few years ago, I heard author and pastor Andy Stanley speak at a conference, and he said this quote, which has stuck with me. Do for one what you wish you could do for all. Now, I don't know about you, but I get too easily bought into the myth about the masses. And here's the myth. The more people I lead, or the more people who are underneath me, the more people I speak to, the more followers I have on social media, or the more likes or comments a post gets, that means I'm more successful. That means I've had more influence in people's life. The problem is, it's not true. As the old saying goes, a mile wide, but an inch deep. Yes, there are masses, and yes, there are more people that we have the opportunity to influence and add value to. But the problem is that most of the time in those environments, our words, they don't connect with people. They don't ever get below the surface into their heart and into their mind. You see, I believe true significance and influence, it's in the small moments of life. It's in the one-on-one or small group conversations and interactions. And most of the time, it's not anything that's formal. It's when you walk in the hallway and pass by a coworker and talk to them, or when you're taking your child to school. You see, if we want to have significant influence, we need to make the most of those moments. So we have to have a paradigm shift. And here's our paradigm shift. Focus more on the other person in those conversations and interactions. And ask yourself this question. How can I add value to them today in this moment? That is a question that over the last 5 years, I have been trying to ask myself every single time before I get into a conversation with someone else. How can I make this conversation more about them? How can I encourage them? How can I serve them today? You see, we all have this human need, and it's one of the greatest human needs we have, and that's the need to feel important or significant. When we take the time to add value, and by adding value, I don't mean sharing wisdom. I don't mean giving unsolicited advice. Most of the time that goes in one ear and out the other. By adding value, I mean when you take the time to listen to them, to become genuinely interested in their story, their successes, their struggles, and then you ask relevant questions about that person, they feel like they matter. They feel important. And guess what? Your influence with them grows. This is especially important in today's world. You see, in today's world, it feels like everybody, especially through social media, they have a megaphone. And they're just trying to shout out their point of view and see who can be the loudest. Listening is a lost art, and yet it's the key to unlocking influence. Gallup wrote a book years ago called How Full Is Your Bucket? And the premise is that we all have these proverbial buckets. Think about it like where you get your energy or significance from. And we all walk around throughout life, and there are people and situations that can drain us of our bucket or the water that's in our bucket. And there are people and situations that can fill or replenish that bucket. The problem is that for most of us, we walk around looking to be filled up from other people. And if you have two people who are sitting across from each other in a conversation, and they both are trying to be filled up by the other person, well, then neither one gets filled up. So what if we reverse that? What if we made the choice to choose the path that few people go on and say, I'm going to be a bucket filler. I'm going to focus the majority of my time and effort, especially in conversations and interactions, on figuring out what fills up the other person's bucket. And I'm going to do that. Could you imagine how your influence would grow? People would want to be around you because you are filling up their bucket. They're getting energy from you and they're gaining importance. As your influence grows with them, so does making a difference in their life. Now, don't get me wrong. I think leaders and everybody in general, they need people in their life to fill them up. I think you need to have an inner circle of a few people that you know you can go to replenish your bucket. But anyone else outside of your inner circle, I think it's our job to serve them and encourage them by filling up their bucket. And here's what's great about it. When you do this, your bucket gets full. As the ancient Hebrew proverb says, the one who waters will himself be watered. So here's today's game plan. I got two things for you. Okay. First off, I want you to pick a day in the next week. And on this day, you make an intentional effort to focus the majority of conversations on the other person. Ask them questions about their life. Get to know what's going on with them. And then when you get done with that day, I want you to debrief it. How'd the conversations go? What did you learn about the other person? What did you learn about yourself? Was it hard not talking about yourself? Those are good questions to be able to ask yourself so that you can grow in making people feel more important. The second thing is, as you look at the people in your life, I want you to pick 2 or 3 people that you want to intentionally be a bucket filler for. And then I want you to start doing it on a regular basis. You'll be amazed at how your influence grows with those people. Let me leave you with our tweetable lesson. People all have stories. They just don't have many listeners.